rolling?
Roll call.
Yeah. Let's start with a roll call. Obviously, Mayor Bassett here tonight. Juan Torres, you're here.
Here.
Counselor Holly.
Here.
Counselor Abraham.
Here.
Counselor Abrams.
Here.
And Counselor Jaramillo.
Here.
Okay. On tonight, we've got the approval of the agenda. I don't have any changes or anything, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. Do it in roll call. Start here, Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
And Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can I make a suggestion that maybe when we want to talk, we hold up our hands so since we can see each other and maybe grab your attention so we're not both talking at the same time if people are making motions?
You can try that.
Okay.
Next item is the consent agenda. We've got a couple of council meeting minutes, court report, police report, animal control, code enforcement, P&Z, and then a call for a public hearing, and an ordinance adopting by reference 2015 International Fire Code. I will entertain a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda. There's no discussion. We can do a roll call. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye. Somebody's got their phone not on mute.
And Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. That brings us then to discussion items. Hang on just a minute here. First item up is public comment. And for the public listening on the telephone, if you'd give me your names so I can put them here on the list.
Karen Kaiser.
Next,
Melissa Bates.
could you say that again?
Melissa Bates.
Melissa Bates. Next. Does anybody else wish to speak, have their name put on the list? Okay, seeing none, we'll go with that. So then the public comment on general matters. First up, we have Karen Kaiser.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under action items, you're going to talk about the financial report for the month of May. And I hope that you will discuss how in the world you spent another $22,000 on legal bills relating to EPCOR. I've lost count at this point how much money has been spent for something that I've not heard one EPCOR customer say that they want. I hope you'll at least give the town the respect of discussing it since you're spending so much money on it. Thank you.
Next, we have Melissa Bates.
I was just concerned about all the fireworks that are in with like an acre of my land. I'm worried about fires, and I was surprised that it was so ordinance. Maybe that'll change tonight.
Did you have anything else to say?
Mr. Mayor, I could not hear all of that.
Ms. Bates, are you still there?
I am still here.
Go ahead and
I
repeat
am
your
concerned
comments.
I am concerned about the fireworks. I don't like it to sound like there's a war zone and bombs going off in all hours, random times. It's unfair and it's rude, and I'd like it to stop. That's
Okay.
all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who didn't get their name in that would like to speak? Okay, so seeing none, we'll move on then. Next item. And that's discussion and consideration implementing an appropriate fireworks ban pursuant to the Fireworks Safety and Licensing Act. So council, what this is, we got this in from the governor. She signed it here the other day, and we went ahead and put it on the agenda to discuss and, I don't know, even take some action. But we backed up on it, and basically it comes down mostly to trying to ban sales of fireworks. So we called the county right away, the fire marshal's office and stuff, and said, so what are you guys doing? Because historically, we've, piggybacked onto whatever they've done. They said, we aren't doing anything about it. It's not the usual, ban on fireworks right around the 4th. They've already got the burn ban in effect. And as far as banning sale of fireworks, we don't hardly have anything. This might be a bigger deal down in Moriarty with those big sellers, but here all we've got is the little bags or whatever that maybe Smith's or Walmart has. So in the end, it's on the agenda, but there's not really a whole lot to do about it. We've made you aware of the order and stuff, but as near as we could tell talking with the county, this is more aimed at sale of fireworks, which, again, we just don't have that much of. Certainly I'll take your comments and stuff, but there's not a whole lot really to do with this one.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
my comments are on, since Santa Fe County already has a fireworks ban in, we do usually do something banning fireworks around the 4th of July. And
Right.
we're only a couple weeks away.
Right.
Do we want to go ahead and put something in place like we typically have in the past based on what Santa Fe County has already done?
Well,
Or
as I said, that's the burn ban they put in place back, 3 weeks ago or a month or so ago, and we adopted our own version of that. So the burn ban is in place. It follows Santa Fe County's. It's not specific to fireworks. They just had their, ban on everything outdoor burning. And so
Okay.
they felt like they'd already addressed the topic of stuff burning outdoors. And this one back here has it about urging, consider implementing firework bans, like the sale of and stuff, and we just don't have that much here. So it's, do you want to
Yeah.
try to mess with something little like that? Or do we just go with the fire ban we've already instituted and let this one go for now?
My position on that would be, we have no reason, I don't think, to try and ban fireworks. I think, I think if we just do what we've always done, which is follow what Santa Fe County does, I think that's been as effective as we're gonna get at this point.
That's about what we figured, and as we all know, on the night of the 4th, we'll likely hear a lot of booming and banging. It's tough to make them not do it, but like I say, this came down last week. We thought, okay, put it on there, but then when we started reaching out to Santa Fe County, they says, no, we haven't done anything. We've already got our burn ban in place. We had adopted basically the same thing, I guess, at our meeting on the 10th, so we felt like we were covered. It's here. Put it away and move on to the next thing.
Okay. So continue to just follow Santa Fe County
Right,
lead?
yep.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Councilor Jaramillo. I just wanted to say I think what we have in place is adequate as well. It allows for just very small fireworks, and that's very consistent with every other year and with the county as well, like you mentioned. I'm not a fan of over-regulation. I'm a fan of freedom. And actually at this time right now in our country with everything going on, I think a little patriotic spirit would be a great thing.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments or thoughts? If not, we'll move along then to matters from counselors. First up's Counselor Holly.
Okay, I just have a few announcements. Our library, even though they continue to be shut down for in-person gatherings, they still have programs that are being made available online. And there is one scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday, June 25th at 1 o'clock. And this is Plants and Pebbles with Explora. And so you are asked if you wanted to participate to tune into Explora's Facebook page tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's a free, family-friendly online event. And the other one that's coming up at our local library online will be next Thursday, July 2nd, again at 1 o'clock. This one's called Surviving the Wild. And for some reason, it does say in the details that space is limited, so you need to register for that. Again, it's a free, family-friendly online event. And if you've got any questions, please contact our Edgewood Community Library at 281-0138. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to the Route 66 Arts Alliance. They are offering online classes and free art supplies to the children. The program just started this week, and the free art supplies are available at the free lunch program at the Route 66 Elementary School on Barton Road and Route 66 from 11 until 1, Monday through Friday. And the supplies are for use with the online art classes, and links are posted at the Route 66 Arts Alliance website. You can show up to get your art supplies and then click on the links on the website to the class that you want to take. And all classes are for all ages, and new classes will be added to the website through the next 2 months. The other thing I want to say is Town of Edgewood is helping to sponsor this event by buying the art supplies for the children. And then finally, a reminder about the Edgewood Healthy Foods Market that's being run in conjunction with the Roadrunner Food Bank and First Choice Community Healthcare Clinic. They had their second event today. The food distribution is on Wednesday every other week at 2:30. So the next distribution will be July 8th, starting at 2:30 p.m. And it's primarily fruits and vegetables. And there are no qualifying criteria. Anyone in the community can come. So help us get the word out so they will continue to make this distribution possible. That's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Abraham.
The first thing I wanted to ask is, do we have any updates as to what the special session is doing budget-wise?
No, ma'am.
Nothing?
Well, we know sort of what they did, but everything's went to the governor and she hadn't signed anything, so it's kind of hard to figure out what they went or let through and what they didn't let through. So
Okay.
when we did talk to people up there, it was always, well, they haven't signed anything yet, so I can't tell you just what's what.
Right. Any thoughts on capital appropriations, though?
The last I'd heard was that they might claw back the 2020 stuff, but they may still have the 2019 stuff in place.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next thing I wanted to talk about is because we've hired a bunch of people lately, And when I started looking at our personnel policy, which is why I asked you to grab it one, you emailed each and every one of us, the members of the governing body, a copy of this on 2/26 of 2020 at my request. And my concern is, on page 3, it talks about procedures for when a position becomes vacant or whenever a new position is created. An employee requisition form shall be completed by the supervisor and transmitted to the clerk treasurer's office. The clerk treasurer will then be responsible for completing a notice of position form, which shall include a job description. Before the posting of the notice of position form, the salary shall be determined by the appropriate job description and shall be approved by the town council. I think we're totally missing this step, because there was question about the salary for the positions that are being filled. And so I just want to bring this to your attention and make sure, apparently we haven't been following this, but I want to make sure we start in the future. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Next person then is Counselor Jaramillo.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your public comments and for joining us tonight on Facebook or on the phone. I think it's great to see your involvement. I do have some questions for Juan, which I can address during the matters from the clerk treasurer, if that's okay, or I can do them now. What do you prefer, Mayor?
Go ahead with your comments. You can ask him stuff during his session.
Okay, perfect. I did want to let people know that the governor did come out with an 8-point, I think it is, reentry plan for the schools. And so at this point, there's a lot of hoops to jump through and everything, but they are planning that they can reopen with limitations. And I have information on that if anyone is interested in it. There was a call with the secretary as well of education this morning. And I know they're being super cautious, but at least there is a plan in place to start reopening the schools. I did want to ask council now if there was any objection to having a discussion item or action item on the resolution that impacts the open space and the equestrian center. I had requested that last time, but we failed to poll the counselors to see if we could add that on the agenda. So, are you guys okay with adding that on the next agenda?
I am.
Mr. Mayor, I think we need to speak with Santa Fe County and figure out what their plan is before we take any action or put any kind of document together or commit to anything, because they may not want it.
Okay.
I'm all for the equestrian center, believe me, but if Santa Fe County is not going to play, then we can't put our toys in their sandbox.
And Mr. Mayor, my opinion is the same as Councilor Abrams. Our county commissioner came down here and met with the folks at the equestrian center. He was going to go back and work through his chain of command and figure out a path forward. So it's their property. I think we need to wait until they make their decisions, and they've got to take the lead on this. And I think you've already made it clear to them that we are willing to help and support in any way we can.
Okay. What else have you
to
got,
be
Counselor?
fair, we can allow them some more time to go through their chain of command and see what they have on their minds. Yeah, I think that is a good idea. I just want to make sure that at some point here, we get it on the agenda this summer so that we can address the resolutions that we do have in place, because the language in those resolutions is what we need to address. If we're not going to do something, we need to rescind a resolution, right? We can't just ignore our resolutions that council passed. So anyway, all right, I'm hearing that we need to hold off on that. The next one that I wanted to have a pull on was I had asked for an update on the youth programming and the budget information that Carla was going to give, and I wanted that to be brought forward to council. So are there any objections? Are you guys okay with having that on the next agenda?
It's okay with me.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any objection, but I think, right now we're under sort of interesting statewide rules regarding gatherings, and I don't think exposing children to COVID would be a good idea in a group. So I'm kind of curious where this is gonna go.
And
Right.
Neil, I'm just not sure what you're asking for. Are you just wanting an update from our deputy clerk on youth programming by the town?
Right, so we've discussed this for many months, and even in person when Carla was at the meetings back then. We did receive funding for youth programming at our request at the legislative breakfast, if you remember, in 2019, so that was great. Or it might have been 18, effective in 19. But, so I've met with Andrea and Carla and come up with several different ideas over time. We've discussed with Linda Burke with her ideas. I know, Linda, you had some really great ideas that you brought to council at one point in time that I really appreciated you bringing forth. It's just that we've never really taken some action forward. And I do know that COVID has interrupted things, and Andrea's doing a great job with the library and continuing youth activities where we can. But what I had asked Carla was to, and Juan as well, to show us where we're at on that funding, because it does expire. And so I wanted to be able to make sure that we're using that money for our youth. And that can happen in many different ways. It can be supporting programs that are already there, and it can be used in a safe way. But I just want to make sure that we are doing what we can for the community's youth. So that's really, Carla was going to be checking into some things, researching some things. She was going to get the numbers from Juan, and then they were going to present to council like where things are at right now, so that we're all in the know and we can all, make a decision on how to spend that money.
Anything else?
I'm in support of that.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, then the next item was I had asked if we could have a budget workshop. So I wanted to find out if council is willing to have a budget workshop.
I think we need to have one when we know what the impact may be, so that unless there's some other deadline we need to meet.
And I would also add on that we were waiting to hear from DFA the next move they wanted us to take. They kind of told us back there to pass the last year's budget, and then they basically said they'll be forthcoming with, how to proceed next. So we've been kind of waiting to hear from them as to what's next step to take.
I think that there's still a lot of discussion that can happen. Like the other governmental entities around the state have still continued with their budget discussions, and including the public in on those. One thing that Juan had brought up at the last meeting or the meeting before was, money for a study that needs to be done on salaries and things like that. And so, you know, those are the types of discussions that if we're not providing what staff needs, then we need to get that in the budget, right? Another thing I saw, I think it was Martha Turner had brought up a really good point on Nextdoor app about even the Equestrian Center resolution that we have. Okay, well, we have this resolution that says we're going to do something here, but we need the funding for it. So that's another really good idea. We also have several new department heads or lack thereof. And I really always appreciate listening to them and what they expect they're going to need for their department for the coming year. And that takes a lot of work. It's not something that we can just snap our fingers in July and submit a final budget, you know, without going through this careful process on our finances. So are you guys okay with having a budget workshop in July?
I am.
I think I would hold off on it until we know more about what's coming out of the session and stuff. You know, if we decide to do that, it'd be easy enough to work one up. Basically be along the lines of a special meeting, and I think we could do that, you know, when we're ready. It would be my feeling.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I do believe it is a bit premature at this time. As you said, we haven't heard what the resolution is from the state legislature yet, and also the guidance from DFA. This is kind of an odd year as far as budget and financials go, so I think instead of jumping into it without all the info, we should kind of hold off.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Councilor Abrams?
I don't know what to tell you. July might be too early. I'm not sure. I don't know. From what I've seen of the legislative session and the information that I've gotten, this is going to be a hurry up and wait. I have a sneaking suspicion that the governor is going to wait for the last hour to sign bills. And there are a lot of balls up in the air right now. Which ones are going to hit the ground and which ones aren't? Don't know an answer. So I think a planning session, figuring out what our budget's going to look like, is going to be premature until everything's in hand. I know from my day job that that's pretty much where higher ed is at. A little too early.
Yeah, I was going to say
I would be maybe August.
maybe that's something that we can look at our next meeting just to see where things stand. If we have
Hold on a second. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. We're getting some nasty feedback in here.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, so I was just saying, we could wait until the July 8th meeting and see where things are at and go from there. So that we can tell where the state is at. With that,
Go ahead.
did we lose any funding yet on Church Street 1?
Mayor Council, as of right now, I mean, everything's frozen. We haven't necessarily lost anything. It's just frozen until we find out what the final outcome from the legislative session is.
Okay, all right. And then you guys know that I've been in favor of seeing what the community wants to do with, as far as the public-private relationship for water treatment. And I kind of came out with a challenge to EPCOR, you know, let's see what we can work on together for a win-win for Edgewood. And I saw that they did respond in the paper, willing to take a look at things with the town. So with that, in the effort to gain more information to make solid decisions on, I figured it would be a really good idea for us to have a special session, or even add to our next agenda to see how the town could possibly work with EPCOR. It doesn't mean that we have to, it just means that we would be exploring the idea of water treatment for the community, and really call upon their experts to give us their knowledge as to, what happened in the past when the community said no to it, and then see what we could do together for the future. And I guess, Mayor, you've said that information is not ready to bring forward on EPCOR, so I thought this might be a good time in the interim to get this information kind of on the other side of it, so that when we do have to make a decision on what you bring forward, we have all of the information to make an informed decision. But if we don't have them come to the table and kind of hear from the community again on this idea, then we won't have balanced information from which to make a decision. So are you guys okay with having a special meeting or an item on the next agenda to speak about, just brainstorm about a public-private relationship for a water treatment?
I'm not.
I am.
And I have to say, no, not at this time. I think it's premature.
Having worked on private, public collaborative efforts in the past, I don't know exactly how this one would work. So I need more information ahead of time, a lot more information.
That's what I'm hoping that we could accomplish by coming together and discussing it and asking each other questions, and doing this in a very open and transparent way. I don't think it's really up to any one person to be, trying to figure this out on our own. I think it should be a collaborative effort so that we could, figure out if that's the main complaint here is really the water quality. It's not the service, it's not, anything else other than water quality. So if we could save the town millions and millions of dollars by just putting that money toward water treatment, then I think that we really could have a win. I think that the public would be incredibly happy with that. And so, Councilor Abrams, how would you suggest that we get the information?
Counselor, this is matters from the counselors. If you've got something to go ahead and say, can we get moving on and let Counselor Abrams do his speaking?
Well, we've been entertaining questions here
I know,
the entire night.
and like I say, maybe we should, wrap it up and get on with the agenda.
Okay. Well, again, I'm going to ask that you add this to the agenda. I think it's much more open and transparent than you just writing letters to the editor and me writing letters to the editor. I think it's much better to have government open and working together with others, including the public in on those discussions. So again, I'm requesting that. And if I heard you right, Councilor Abrams, you're saying no.
Not right now, not without a whole heck of a lot more information.
And how do we get that? You're not sure?
Counselor, are you done? Counselor Abrams?
No, actually, I'm not. I did want to ask one if we had the policy for donation of assets. That's something that council had asked for, I believe over a year ago, on donated assets, and it slipped through the cracks, and then you emailed and said you would have a copy for us in March, but I haven't seen that policy, so I'm wondering if you could add it to the next agenda and bring a copy, have a copy in the packet for us to review.
Yeah,
And,
Mayor, Council, if I may on that, so our draft version, I believe, is with our attorneys, so once we get one back, we'll bring it forward.
Okay, so you're waiting on the attorneys,
Yes, Council.
is that correct?
That's what he
Do you
said.
know how long they've been sitting on it?
I think I got to him about the end of March.
Okay, okay. And then I did want to know which audit firm was chosen. I never heard on that part. I was just curious who we're going to be working with this year.
Mayor, Council, so we'll have Harshwell for one more year. They were the only ones who submitted a complete proposal, fully compliant with the state audit rule. And that was the lowest, also the lowest bid.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Oh, the indemnification clause. You were going to look that up in the sewer operator's contract and figure out if that's allowed under state law. So that might be a Marcus question.
Counselor, I do believe Carla was going to pull that one and look at that. I will follow up with her and get you an email tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. That's all I have for tonight.
Counselor Abrams?
Well, I'll try and be brief. I'm going to raise the, hey, Santa Fe County, fix the trail in front of the fire station. Our trail goes up to your road cut and stops, and somebody's going to get hurt because there's two great big holes right where that trail goes through. If you don't go on the trail, that means you're on 344, and right there is no shoulder. I'll go on with trails and say we really need to think very carefully about where we want to put some more trail material. It would be very nice to extend our current 344 trail, which we, by the way, have the right-of-way for from the Department of Transportation, and we have permission to improve it, all the way to Frost Road. It would be really nice to do another mile, just saying. So, when and if we have budget talks this year, and when and if there is funding for that, it wasn't expensive to do the first three. It shouldn't be expensive to do another mile or two. We got to do it sooner or later, because sooner or later somebody's going to get hurt. I saw a kid on Dingle, just by the county line, between the county line and Vista Verde Way, riding his bicycle. Somebody's going to come over that hill doing 35, 40 miles an hour, and it's not going to be pretty. So sooner or later, we're going to have problems that I really would prefer to avoid by some preventative, I don't think you would call it maintenance, preventative construction, perhaps. Anyway, with the legislative session over and with some of the stuff that I saw come out of the state legislature this year, I really don't know what the governor is going to sign and what she won't. And with that, I'm going to say I'm glad we have our tentative budget the way it is, and I'm glad the finances look the way they do, and I'm glad that we're able to keep the town going.
Councilor Abrams, do you know when you're going to tackle that project? I've offered my help, so I want to make sure you and I connect, because Scott and I can get out there and help you.
Which project would that be?
With the trail, the one you said you're going to do.
Oh, I'm not gonna go out there again. The last time I went out there on a tractor, I ended up in the emergency room.
Oh, gosh, no. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood you. What did you mean?
I mean, put together the funding to get it done.
Okay, all right.
You know, we've got a discussion before us here very shortly, with regard to road base and crusher fines. My recollection was it cost about $20,000 to do those 3 miles of crusher fines. And, the Boy Scout troops, both of them in town, were very generous with, their scouts, and I believe, 2 Eagle Scouts, came out of that project. So, you know, we've got people to work it. I just don't want to get out there on a tractor again and, get heat stroke.
Okay, if we're done with that, then the next item is matters from the clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor Council, so just want to give you a quick update. So at about 4:45 this evening, we had a leak on the reuse line just behind Walmart. So the valve has been shut off. You know, the water's not flowing now. It was a minor leak, and we'll, you know, first thing in the morning, we'll investigate, figure out what happened. I think it looks something similar to what happened out near Parker's on the Key Place, where I think it was a little valve that broke. So we'll look at that, investigate, see what happened, send the report and everything to NMED, give them notification, you know, and we'll let you know more information once we know more. Let's see. Still waiting to hear back from PERA and the Social Security Administration. So it does look like that was the issue with the trying to remove Social Security from the police officers. So they were trying to modify an agreement that didn't exist. So we're going to have to set up an error modification agreement with them. And so I'm just trying to figure out what the process is and what we need to actually submit. So I'm hoping we'll get that and have that forth on the next agenda, just so we can have that, you know, resolution, have the vote, and move forward with it, just so now we're in compliance. So technically, because the town never signed the agreement, we've been withholding Social Security, I guess you want to call it, illegally since 1999 when they first incorporated. And I guess the town just assumed we fell under the umbrella of the state. But in fact, we do need our own 218 agreement in place. So that's what we're working with just to figure out how do we get that in place, and you know what steps are going to be. From what they told me preliminarily, it's going to be very similar to what we did with the police department, and we'll submit an error modification agreement. We'll have a vote amongst the employees of the town, and probably the best way to do it would be the same like we did with the police, have a divided vote. So it's still majority rules, but if someone decides they want to opt out of the Social Security, they can, and so everyone that votes, if they opt out, they can opt out. If they opt in, but anyone moving forward, any new hires will be at the will of what the majority was. And also in that same resolution, that is where you as a governing body would then opt out the police from it, and then that's how they would be opted out. And then the next steps after that would be once the resolution passed and PARA and Social Security Administration approve it, then we can coordinate through the IRS to request a reimbursement for the full amount, and that would come to the town, and then it would fall onto the town to reimburse the employees for their portion going back 3 years. But once we get the final steps and the copy of the resolution and everything we need, we'll put that in place and bring that forth. And I hope we'll have that for the next meeting, but and it's as soon as we get it from, and I don't know who's going to be preparing that, Social Security or PARA, but as soon as we get it, I'll bring it forth. And I think that's all I have right now.
Then, next item would be matters from the mayor. I've got several tonight. First one is, we've received notice from the New Mexico Environment Department that our request for a new groundwater discharge permit is complete, and now we can begin providing public notice. I believe Carla sent these out to you guys, and it should be up on our website, if not today, tomorrow. And it just basically, we've got to go through and they've got notices we've got to get out and get put up and stuff to notify people of the coming, well, if they have anything to say about our application for a new discharge permit. The other thing we have is, I think I've told you before that TLC did win the bid to build our concrete drain, that bed out there at the wastewater plant that you can put the stuff from the press on and let it dry out. Well, anyway, it's the drying pad. They're set to start work on it here July 7th, and it should take them maybe up to 120 days to get all that plumbed in, back into the building and build the pad and stuff. So starting Tuesday the 7th is when they're scheduled to begin work on that. Another thing we had was, I don't know if any of you have been by and seen it yet, but we do have new signage up at the police department. They've got big letters across the west side of the building that you can see all the way back at 344. And they've also stuck a, it's not a monument sign, but it's got two legs, and it's right out along frontage road there, Edgewood Police Department. And I guess the one thing they're waiting on there maybe is some kind of way to light it in the evenings. But I would encourage you all to go by and look at it. It looks pretty nice. We have another coming and going here. Our senior animal control officer, Mike Ring, he will be. Counselor Abraham, do you have something?
Yes, are we gonna do something like that on the town hall building as well? Are there plans for that or not?
You
To
mean
put
like the
on
signage?
building? Yeah,
I don't know if we've got any plans. You mean to put on this building here?
yes,
Don't know of any right now.
okay, I think that would be a good idea. You know, it would help the public find us,
Yeah.
so.
Our senior animal control officer, Mike Ring, he will be retiring in September. And so that's another job we're gonna have to look at filling in. Our own Dora Garcia, she's, her last day will be next Monday on the 29th, and in lieu of a retirement party, I'd ask all of you to email her your best wishes. Let her know, how we feel about her. Let's see, on the new police chief, we've got 6, maybe a 7th application that's come in, and actually one actually came in just this evening here, so maybe 8. Our plan is to, it's open till it's filled, and maybe we can begin interviews next week. That's quite a few people to look at and try to sort them out, so sooner we get started, sooner we get done. And Juan's already told you we had the leak out there in the return effluent line. My last thing is to thank Leota Harriman and the Independent for broadcasting our meetings. So thank you, Leota. That's all I've got in matters from the mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
are we going to follow the procedures in our personnel policy, for these police officers and for Mike Ring's replacement? Where council.
We can certainly try.
Mayor Council, so one thing I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm actually going to contact our attorneys just to see, because since I've been here, I don't think we've ever followed that practice and policy. So I'm going to contact them to see, do we need to modify our policy to match what we've been doing, or do we need to, or can we just follow it? I just don't want to open us up to some sort of liability if not. And I guess with respect to the police chief, that portion is a mayor's appointee, and per state law, he can appoint whomever he wants, and we don't have to follow that for appointees. I mean, you guys still have to ratify and approve the hire, but he is the mayor, and he has the privilege to appoint whomever he likes for those positions.
Juan, I have a question about what you said about never following this policy. It was only adopted in December 7th of 2016. You were already the clerk here, so why would we have approved a policy we weren't gonna follow?
Well, I guess, Counselor, before it was a policy, it was the ordinance, and the ordinance was never followed, to my knowledge as well, so I can't answer that for you.
Okay, thank you.
So the first action item then is discussion, consideration, and action on issuing an IFB for base course. And again, this is one of those we see every year, and usually Moriarty Concrete, they come in with it. But anyway, it will be to get a road base course, 1 inch per state spec, crusher fines, an engineered fill, 1/2 inch minus, chip rock for chip seal, and then the hauling rate.
Mr. Mayor,
So, yeah, go ahead.
I would move that we go out and request bids for road base course, crusher fines, engineered fill, chip rock, and hauling.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve going out for IFB, invitation for bid on road base course, crusher fines, engineered fill, chip rock for chip seal, and hauling rates. Any discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Start here. Counselor Abrams,
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo,
Aye.
Counselor Abraham,
Aye.
and Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. Our next item then is discussion, consideration, action on my recommendation to hire Courtney Labram as administrative assistant for the town. So as we move our chairs around on the deck here, so to speak, since Amelia's been bumped up, that leaves open the administrative assistant position. Courtney's in there. She's placed her hat in the ring for it on the employment application here. You have before you, you've got her resume, and I would entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
What's that?
I have a question. What is her salary going to be?
You know
Mayor,
that.
Council, 1529.
What?
1529.
$15.29.
And where did you get that salary from? It's not what's in our pay scale.
It is in our pay, Counselor. It is 7.5% less than what the midpoint is. All employees are to be hired at 7.5% less than midpoint, and then after the probationary period, brought back up to midpoint.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would move to accept the hire of Courtney LeBron as administrative assistant for the town of Edgewood.
I'll second, and then Mayor, I do have a question that I forgot to ask last time. Just wanted to double check if there are any family relationships that we should know about.
None that I know of.
I did see she worked at Gallagher Bassett. Is that any relation?
Nope. I never heard of them.
Just checking. I wanted to make sure everything was fully disclosed here as far as if there's any family members, that she's related to anybody or.
I have eaten at Trail Rider Pizza. Don't know if that means anything, but no, I'm not kin to any of these. Don't know who Gallagher Bassett is, but I have eaten at Trail Rider Pizza.
Well, I mean, not just you, Mayor, but, you know, it could be anyone in the town. Or, you know, anybody that, you know, because of nepotism rules.
Yeah.
It's not just you.
Understood. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll call for a roll call vote on this one. Start here, Counselor Abraham.
Nay?
Nay or aye?
Nay?
Okay, nay. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
And Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. And the next item, okay, this is discussion, action, consideration on Resolution 2020-11, which is our Edgewood operating resolution. And so what this is, counselors, and I hope you got your email today with the corrected verbiage, or, well, it's put in red, let's put it that way. And what it comes down to is under conduct of closed meetings, it goes up to 5, so this adds 6, 7, and 8. And it's basically going into a closed session at an open meeting. It gives us direction on how to do that, and this is in response to one of the state auditor's findings concerning the provision for notices of closed sessions. So number 6 tells you how to start into it. 7 is when you've completed what you've got to come out and do. And then number 8 is that there will be an effort made to run every closed session by the attorneys for their review so they can tell us whether or not we've got it right. And so I'll entertain a motion on this one and we can discuss it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-11, the Town of Edgewood operating resolution. This would repeal and replace 2020-02.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve adoption of Resolution 2020-11, and as part of it, replace Resolution 2020-02. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think it solves the issue that was brought up, and I think we should just go ahead and go for it.
Okay, on that, we'll do a roll call vote. Start here, Counselor Jaramillo.
Are we voting on the resolution, the entire resolution, or the change?
Well, it's the change to the resolution, but it gives it a new resolution number.
Okay, aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
And Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. The last item then is the financial report for the month of May 2020. Mr.
Mayor,
Torres.
Council, so you have before you the financial report. So this would be April's GRT. So if you can see on, or you can see on that report, it was another good month for the town. And this is one where, like I told you previously, I think with respect to the COVID and what the impact's going to be, I don't think we're truly going to know right now, because this was still the month of April when it was hard to find things on the shelf in the grocery stores. But it reflects here that the shelves were empty. $415,508.25 was the total amount distributed, bringing the total amount of GRT brought in for the year $4,743,725.62. And you can see right there on the food and medical, it was $140,000. And if you look back throughout the year, when we had some high months, of course we had some months where they withheld some and then paid us back, but our average was probably right around $100,000 5,000 somewhere in there. So, we'll just, once again, continue to monitor that as it comes in, and I think for this next year is just really pay attention to that and, keep after the department heads, make sure they only, moving forward, that they only purchase what they absolutely need, even though they have it on the budget, just so we can monitor it and make sure that, if anything changes, we're not really trying to struggle to do cuts if it comes to that. Hopefully it doesn't, but that's kind of where we're at. Moving over to the council report, you'll see some large expenditures for Bohannon, Houston. The two largest ones on there are for the wastewater treatment system improvements. They're moving along, trying to do the engineering for that. We had, the one right above that, Bixby Electric. They did have to replace some streetlight cables. Let's see.
Juan, could I ask you on that? You mentioned Bohannon, Houston. I think it was like $66,000 or so. What is that for? Exactly?
The design services for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. So the designing the concrete pad, I believe they're working on designing the new screens, and just all the improvements that were called out in the tech memo to kind of improve the plant and improve operations of the plant. So that's what their main task is. We do have them. They have some smaller tasks that they'll do for the town, like if we have any applicants that have any grading and drainage or something like that, planning and zoning will have them review that. They are working on that pedestrian bridge project. So they do have several projects with the town, but the big expenditures were all for the wastewater treatment plant improvements for the upgrades.
Okay, and that just didn't start until recently?
Well, we did the RFP probably around this time last year. It took a while for NMED, going back and forth with NMED to approve the contract and the scope, and then once that was approved, they've been working on it now. So they're going to be doing this, like the mayor said, TLC is going to be doing the phase one of the, or I guess they call it phase one, but it's the concrete drying pad, and then they're working on the design for the screens, some SCADA improvements. I think there's a dip tank in there that will help improve the membrane life at the plant. I don't remember everything that they were tasked to design and improve at the plant, but that's what they're working on. And then also, speaking of membranes, you'll see a purchase for $17,000 for Kubota membranes, and that was just once again adding more membranes, putting those online in the plant. So those are online and they are functional now. You'll see a large one to Moriarty Concrete, for $44,000, and that was for the base course on East Venus. There's also Moriarty Edgewood Schools, so that's the utility bills and the rents of these two buildings. So that's in place, and I've spoke with the superintendent to ensure that we start getting more timely billing from them. Yeah. Let's see. Also, just since talking about the wastewater treatment plant, there's one for Ovivo, and this is why we can't wait to get the new screens designed and purchased. So we have a little screening process right now, and it has a little motor that essentially turns the screen, and that motor keeps burning out. We've purchased, I think this will be 4 of them now in less than a year, and it keeps burning out. And hopefully, we bought another spare, so if something happens, we're not completely out, but we want to try and keep on top of that, and that's why we can't wait. I mean, there's many reasons why we want those new screens at the plant, but one is just the replacement cost of these motors. Since I've been here, I think we've replaced, or since we've taken over operations, I know we've replaced 6 of those motors. So I really hope we can get that fixed and get it moving. Robles Rail and Anaya. So I've had several discussions with them as well. Once again, to try and be on top of their billing, so we're not getting billed for several months at once. So hopefully we're going to be getting caught up very soon. Then we'll start seeing those just as here's the previous month's billing. We had the BLM lease, and I don't recall which that one is, the 3,976. I think that's Venus Park, but I'll double check on that. And I think that's the major expenditures this go around, and I'll stand for any questions.
Council have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So I was just trying to calculate here. So the EPCOR bills for 22,000 are for which month?
Mayor Council, I don't know offhand.
Is it maybe April and May? Are we caught up now?
Mayor Council, I think, if you're just kind of looking at the other billing, how it says it was November, December, January, I would think it's, I don't want to assume, but I think it would be around that same time frame. I can look into that and let you know.
Okay. And because I'm just trying to calculate, I think that their bid rate with us is somewhere around $150 an hour, maybe. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we paid them, $22,000 on EPCOR, I'm wondering what they did for 150 hours of time. What is it that they're doing?
Working on a project that the council asked us to look into.
But what would the attorneys be doing for 150 hours? We didn't, I don't understand what they're physically doing for that much money.
Yeah. I wonder that myself sometimes.
What's taking them 150 hours on EPCOR?
Don't know. I have to kind of figure that out. What's your last page here?
No, sorry, Mayor Council, that's the year-to-date treasurer's report from the Encode system. So across all funds, we're ending the fiscal year with $3,709,222.90 in the bank.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on Bohannon, Houston, everything else has a description on there. Why does this not have any kind of description about the design improvement for those two very large items? Why is that just blank? It doesn't have anything, it's just blank.
Mayor Council, I'm not certain why it was entered in that way. I can look into that, but I know those were for the wastewater system design.
Okay, then I have another question. I had IFRID some information, and I saw that Bohannon Houston is actually working on seeking funding for the EPCOR takeover. What is that being billed under?
Mayor Council, we're not under any contract with them to acquire funding or take over EPCOR with Bohannon Houston.
Okay, so they're helping for free?
Mayor Council, I would assume, you're talking about the 2018 emails with USDA. I think they set up.
No, I'm talking about the meeting that you guys had on June the 9th.
I don't recall a meeting with Bohannon Houston on June 9th.
Okay.
What is it that you're looking at, Counselor?
I IFRID some information from Carla, and as part of that, there was a letter talking about a conference call, with, let me see, with,
Mr. Mayor, we're getting off topic.
Authority, on June the 9th at 10 a.m. And, you know, part of this was from Bohan and Houston as well. So I'm just curious as to how we're paying Bohan and Houston to seek funding.
I don't think we are.
Okay.
So, Mayor,
Where are we going here?
I don't know.
I just heard Counselor say that there was a meeting to ask for funding to overtake EPCOR.
No, there was not.
Mayor?
According to an interesting email.
One at a time.
Okay, I believe I have the floor right
Well,
now.
I'm waiting for you to say it.
Response to an IFRA to Carla, I received as part of that, an email from her between, let me see, between New Mexico Finance Authority, and I'm assuming Juan and Carla were going to be there since they copied her on it, on June the 10th, sometime between 10 and 3. And it also has something to do with First American Financial Advisors. There was also some information, I don't have it right in front of me, but implying that Bohan and Houston was working on funding for this.
Not that I know
So
of.
that was my question.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Abrams?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of May, and hopefully we can keep this on topic.
I still have questions about the financial report.
Go
You
ahead.
made a motion, Counselor, and you've been off topic, so let's go.
I have not. I was questioning Bohan and Houston's
That's part of the financial report for the month of May.
that had a
This is
blank
the report for the month of May.
question as to what it was for. My next question is about Simplified Graphic Studio LLC, for $188.74.
I was given the floor, I made a motion,
How could you be given the floor when I would still have the floor?
recognized by the mayor, Counselor.
Simplified Graphics Studio? You have any idea what that one's about?
All it says is Design Initiate Edgewood.
I see that. I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I'd have to look something up.
Okay?
Mayor, point of order, we have a motion on the floor. We need a second before we go to discussion.
Do we have a second to approve the,
I'll second.
do we got a second?
Thank you.
Okay, motion second been made. So what was the other discussion? Okay, if we don't have any, then I'll call for the vote on it.
Mayor, who are you yielding the floor to? The person who made the motion first? And then the person who made the motion second? If Counselor Abrams and Holly don't have anything to say, then you go down the line, and I believe Counselor Abraham is not completed, and I also have a comment or a question.
Okay, what's the discussion?
Okay, so there's also, $444 to Smith Engineering for design construction oversight. What was that for?
That was for overseeing the Work done over at the police station and the old community center, getting them hooked up to the sewer system.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Counselor
Okay,
Jaramillo?
Mayor. So my question relating to that Bohannon Houston and to the attorney's charges for EPCOR that relates back to my previous question. Council never gave approval to seek funding for this. Can you confirm or deny that that Carla is seeking funding?
I don't know that we're seeking any funding at this time.
What was that meeting?
I don't know when the meeting was. She picked several dates in there.
You know, point of order, I think since we don't all have that information in front of us, I don't think there's anything for us to discuss. If
True.
only one person.
Would you like me to send it to you?
You have to do that another time, Counselor.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify with these bills here that is relevant. Are any of those bills to Bohannon Houston or the attorneys in the activities of searching out funding?
Mayor, council, there has been no bill charged to the town of Edgewood to seek out funding from any organization, period.
And are you seeking funding?
We are not seeking funding, we are simply seeing what would it take to seek funding. Any action to seek funding has to be approved and has to be done by the governing body.
Yeah.
We cannot go out and get funding for anything without your approval, but we can ask what is the application process, how do we go about doing it? The charge from the previous governing body was to look into the feasibility of the system, of acquiring the system. Part of that would be to look into what would be the process to seek out funding. I believe, Councilor Abraham's IPRA, where it was talking about Bohannon Houston, that was 2018, where they put us in touch at the time, and I can't remember her name, I think it's Kathy Fiffner was her name with USDA, and she gave us a whole application packet and I believe told us the process to move forward. But once again, the governing body has not given any action or given any authorization to move forward with funding, therefore no applications have been filled out.
Thank you, Juan.
Ready for the vote? Start up here, Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. Next item is calendar review. And town officer still open by appointment only.
I just want to see when that could change.
Well, we're running off the,
Mayor and Council, I think once the governor's order changes, then we can change it. I know we are allowed to have more than the 5 as a governmental entity, but with respect to the public, we can't have more than 5. So I think by appointment only is the way to go until they change those restrictions. I will say that to my knowledge, no one's been turned away that has showed up at the doorstep for an appointment or just an inquiry. So, we're still servicing the public as normal, just the doors that have to call before we let them in the building.
town offices and facilities will be closed Friday, July 3rd in observance of Independence Day. That'll be the 3-day weekend, and our next regular council meeting will be July 8th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Next item is adjournment, and I'll entertain a motion on that.
I move to adjourn, Mayor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Counselor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
And Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, council.